that he had made a bunch of purchases of tech stocks literally on the day that he announces an AI initiative to boost basically these same companies. Again,
there was nothing going on in the first term.
Oh, no, I'm not saying nothing. I'm saying not at this level. I'm not saying nothing. There was plenty of problems in the first term, but not to this level as evidenced by the numbers and the difference in how much money he made in the first term versus now. Now he just doesn't care. And I don't want to hear anything about the transparency argument, which is what James Comer tried to say. Well, at least he's being transparent about it. Well, just because you can doesn't mean you should. That now, in this term, he doesn't have to face re-election. He doesn't give a damn about Republicans and their re-election. Look at the way he's legislating, if that's what we're calling that. He's not. He's engaged in vanity projects and things that, putting his name on things and everything else, but giving any kind of real attention to the affordability crisis and what's happening to people in this country. So his vanity projects are costing the American taxpayers a whole hell of a lot more money than the alleged fraud that they claim that they're going after. This whole thing about fraud in the government is a red herring for them to distract from. Is there fraud? Of course there is. There's also a lot more corruption and conflicts of interest going on with Donald Trump and his family. What's happening with his sons is incredibly sleazy, as the New York Post called it. And others inside, even Fox News is questioning what is going on here with Donald Trump profiting off the presidency because it's that egregious. No, the people who bought these coins, because crypto is scammy, and the people who bought these coins, a lot of them were Trump supporters also, regular folks. Trump thinks they are suckers because he knows he's going to make money, whether that crypto coin is worth anything or not, because they make money off the transactions. So all of these things that they do, from the phones to the Bibles to crypto, he is selling selling things to people because he thinks his own people are suckers.
Donald Trump built one of the most successful political campaigns in modern history around a single promise: drain the swamp, not reform it, not manage it, drain it. But what you're about to watch isn't really a debate about how much money Donald Trump has made. It's a debate over whether he's become the very thing he promised to fight. And that's exactly why this conversation becomes so uncomfortable. Because once that question is asked, everyone on the panel is forced to defend far more than just a bank account. They're forced to defend the promise itself. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these unfiltered political breakdowns, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the Unedited Report, and let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. Now, watch what happens.
Good evening. I'm Abby Phillip in New York. While many people might not be feeling President Trump's economic golden age, his bank account certainly is. And tonight, he's shrugging off concerns about his massively profitable year.
I don't get involved in my personal. We have funds that run my money. You know why I'm profiting? Because the stock market's going up. Everybody's profiting. And I'm profiting because I have a lot of money and a lot of cash.
The New York Times reports that Trump's revenue jumped at least $2.2 billion just in the last year. That's compared to $622 million in 2024, before he took office. And his own financial disclosure forms reveal most of that windfall came from selling new crypto products, including more than $500 million in tokens tied to World Liberty Financial. That's the business managed in part by his sons. There's also the millions that he made from Mar-a-Lago, from Trump watches, from Trump Bibles and shoes and perfumes. And that's probably just scratching the surface. The scope and the scale of this are unprecedented for a sitting president. And it's raising new questions about the conflicts of interest and profiting off the presidency, something that Trump once accused his political enemies of doing.
Look at the money they make. They're full-time politicians, Pelosi and all these people, Waters, right. Obama.
Hillary Clinton has perfected the politics of personal profit.
As Vice President, Joe Biden flew his son Hunter around the world on Air Force Two, sucking up money like a vacuum cleaner.
President Trump is now doing this openly. He's suggesting that this is just a byproduct of him being a business person. But even he is trumping Trump. Back in his first term, he didn't make this kind of money. He didn't do these kinds of stock trades. He didn't see his wealth balloon in this way. Something has changed. And I think part of it is also that he thinks that nobody cares. I mean, he told the New York Times when they asked, why are you doing deals while you're president? He says, I'm allowed to. He says George Washington, when he was president, had a desk in the White House. He had 2 desks. He had a business desk and a president desk. That's his explanation for why this is okay.
There's no doubt that he's the wealthiest president to ever, or wealthiest person to ever become the president. And so it's not surprising that he's going to have greater returns. But when you start talking about crypto revenue, when you start talking about fees associated with that, at a certain point, you know, Democrats are going to be in charge of one house or the other of Congress. And this is the type of stuff that makes for a very compelling congressional investigation, especially when it's not very clear and you can muddy the waters just with insinuation. And that's before you even get to anything that may cross beyond anything that's legal. Like the question of the Wall Street editorial board. Is this honest graft or is it something more? I mean, that even if it is legal, you know, albeit unseemly, it is just going to be political fodder.
Well, I mean, do you think it's unclear? Because it seems pretty clear. I mean, he is
whether
doing
there are violations of the law. Is
well,
the
look, I mean,
unclear
whether there are, I didn't even talk about the law. I'm just talking about, did he make money
Right.
off of things that he is in a position to influence as president, off of deals that he's in a position to greenlight as president? The answer is unequivocally yes.
The problem is the president, candidate Donald Trump, promised to be transparent and he promised to drain the swamp. What we see now is the alligators are getting fatter. And it's not just Donald Trump who's benefiting from the presidency. This scent or the residue of corruption is surrounded this entire administration. If you look at the no-bid contracts we've seen coming from this administration, like with the reflection pool, now this all these other projects, we can also see that there were almost 3,700 trades by this president. Unprecedented. If this were Joe Biden or any other Democratic president, the legislative branch, which has the responsibility to have oversight to the executive branch, would be crawling with investigations, trying to rein this in and get something done about it. But we don't see that. We see a lack of action from the legislative branch.
I mean, to the point on the trades, the New York Times is reporting 3,600 trades in the first 3 months of this year. The prior months, he had only disclosed 25. That's like $100 million in money changing hands while Trump is president. In some cases, involving businesses that he is actively promoting, like Dell. There was fresh reporting that he had made a bunch of purchases of tech stocks literally on the day that he announces an AI initiative to boost basically these same companies. Again, if this were any other president, particularly if they were a Democrat, wouldn't Republicans be up in arms about this?
I know they've offered explanations about the funds are in a blind trust, and I know at least in case of World Liberty Financial, that was started before President Trump took office, but it's definitely
a fair.
It's definitely
I'm pretty sure it was
a fair criticism.
It was less than a week before the inauguration.
The optics are not great, totally. And I think this is something that they're going to have to deal with, as Peter mentioned, in the midterms if we see Democrats take one house. So I think they're going to face some consequences for anything like this. I think for most Americans, though, this isn't their primary concern. I think they're a lot more concerned about how taxpayer funds are being spent and often funneled to fraud. And so that's
a bigger taxpayer funds
a bigger concern with where is the Medicaid money going?
There's taxpayer dollars going to these companies that Trump is getting a financial windfall from. That's also
many companies. Yeah. And not only that, let's just put this in context. When Donald Trump was in office the first time around, to answer your initial question, he didn't do this because he was facing re-election. And the people in the White House knew that the American people actually do care about corruption. They do care about a president profiting off the presidency. They do care about grifting. So they knew better. Don't do this now. But now in this term, he doesn't have to face re-election. He doesn't give a damn about Republicans in their re-election. Look at the way he's legislating, if that's what we're calling that. He's not. He's engaged in vanity projects and things that, putting his name on things and everything else, but giving any kind of real attention to the affordability crisis and what's happening to people in this country. So his vanity projects are costing the American taxpayers a whole hell of a lot more money than the alleged fraud that they claim that they're going after. This whole thing about fraud in the government is a red herring for them to distract from. Is there fraud? Of course there is. there's also a lot more corruption and conflicts of interest going on with Donald Trump and his family. What's happening with his sons is incredibly sleazy, as the New York Post called it. And others inside, even Fox News is questioning what is going on here with Donald Trump profiting off the presidency,
Peter,
because it's that egregious.
I was just going to say, I mean,
So far, the panel has spent a lot of time talking about billions of dollars. But I actually think they're asking the wrong question, because money by itself doesn't prove corruption, and it doesn't prove innocence either. The real issue is something much bigger. Donald Trump didn't build his political brand by promising Americans he'd become a successful businessman. He already was one. He built it by promising that Washington had one set of rules for the political elite and another for everyone else. That's why this debate suddenly becomes so uncomfortable. Not because anyone has proven a crime, but because the standard Republicans once demanded from everyone else is now being turned back on Donald Trump himself. And here's where the debate quietly changes direction, because it stops being about whether Trump can explain the money and starts becoming about whether Republicans can explain the double standard. Pay close attention to what happens next. This is where even people on the right begin asking questions that Republicans on the panel struggle to answer.
the first term, I can't remember how many times I heard the words emoluments clause and concern about the Trump Hotel. So, I mean,
valid.
I just want to say
that's invalid?
No, I'm saying your idea that there was nothing going on in the first term.
Oh, no, I'm not saying nothing. I'm saying not at this level. I'm not saying nothing. There was plenty of problems in the first term, but not to this level, as evidenced by the numbers and the difference in how much money he made in the first term versus now. Now he just doesn't care. And I don't want to hear anything about the transparency argument, which is what James Comer tried to say. Well, at least he's being transparent about it. Well, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
And I would just say the split screen here, to push back on something you said, the split screen is you have everyday Americans, forget about trying to make ends meet. They're putting two ends together, hoping they meet. And yet they voted for this person who's making billions while he slashes government. People are losing jobs, losing their homes, credit card debt, massive, piling up, and yet this man is profiting and these people are hurting. That is the split screen that everyday Americans are thinking about. So I think it's intellectually dishonest to say that everyday Americans are not concerned about what they see happening.
The other thing is that it's not as if, I think there are actually a lot of conservatives, and maybe you're among them, who recognize that this is a problem. Here is Megyn Kelly's take on it.
He put out a disclosure yesterday. It was eye-opening for a lot of people that you can make that kind of money. Maybe it is in crypto, maybe it's not, but it does feel a little bit like, wait, what is going on? And your children are involved in this. And if you remember, we spent a lot of time talking about Hunter Biden.
That was Dana Perino on Fox today. Let's listen to Megyn Kelly.
I'm not going to lie. I'm disappointed with some aspects of the Trump presidency, for sure. It's so grifty. I'm not going to lie. It's grifty. You know, the Trump family is grifty. There's been like story after story about all the money that his sons are making off of the government, these government contracts they're getting, all that. I can't stand that stuff. And
yeah, I mean, look, grifty is one way of putting it. I mean, I think the scale here is what is at issue, because, you know, I think the politics of the Republicans going after Biden are what they are, right? But that was like pennies when we're talking about billions of dollars here. And also the ongoing nature of it, the repetitive nature of it, industry after industry, crypto, mining, robotics, defense contracting, drones, you name it.
Pardons.
It doesn't seem to have an end. And I guess I'm wondering, like, does it need to? I mean, should we go beyond just this is bad, unseemly, maybe unethical? And should there be a real conversation about whether this even should be legal?
Well, there should certainly be investigations. And I think even if one tries to cast this in the best imaginable light and presumes there's nothing illegal here, unseemly is the word that you used yesterday. I'm not sure that there's a better way to describe it. The fact that the president gives this explanation when asked about this directly, oh, you know, I've got so much money, it's in the market, it's in a blind trust. No, the bulk of this money appears to come from the sale of cryptocurrency coins. We know that there are foreign governments and foreign actors who bought these coins in order to get the opportunity to sit down with the president. They are purchasing access to the administration.
And just to explain just this, if you don't understand how this works for Trump, it might surprise you. The crypto coins right now are worth almost nothing. But it doesn't matter because Trump and his family were enriched to the tune of more than $500 million by just having people transacting on these coins. So just the buying and selling of coins, they made money. $500 million in something that is completely worthless
And
right
here's
now.
the other thing about
That's
that.
amazing.
Here's the other thing that people need to know. The people who bought these coins, because crypto is scammy, and the people who bought these coins, a lot of them were Trump supporters also, regular folks. Trump thinks they are suckers because he knows he's going to make money whether that crypto coin is worth anything or not, because they make money off the transactions. So all of these things that they do, from the phones to the Bibles to crypto, he is selling selling things to people because he thinks his own people are suckers. And this is what's so infuriating. Donald Trump continues to insult his own constituency with these things. He's saying to them, yawn on affordability, I don't care. His own people are suffering because of his policies, and he promised them that he was going to make life better, and he hasn't. But life has been better for him, and that is the hypocrisy here that is politically toxic for Republicans. So they have to justify it.
It's a crime scene.
Yep.
The White House, what we see coming out of this White House is a crime scene. That's how everyday Americans view it. It's a crime scene, because if this was any other president with a Democratic label, they would be trying to not only impeach them, someone would be trying to send them to jail.
All right, next for us, after the Supreme Court rejected the Trump administration.
After watching that entire exchange, I think one thing became impossible to ignore. This debate was never just about Donald Trump making billions of dollars. It was about whether the same standards should apply to everyone, regardless of whose name is on the ballot. And that's why this conversation isn't going away anytime soon. Because whether you believe Trump's business dealings are completely legitimate, or whether you think they raise serious ethical questions, the expectation should be the same for every president. No exceptions. But that's my take. What do you think? Has Donald Trump stayed true to his promise to drain the swamp, or has he become part of the very system he once vowed to change? I genuinely love to hear your thoughts, so let me know down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to The Unedited Report, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next analysis. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.